Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is a special written by Jheqia, narrated by Dawn myself. Hello! And this is the sequel to Operation Valentine that was much requested by you all, so I hope you enjoy it. All of Jheqia's information is listed down below, so make sure you go and send her some love. A massive shout out and thank you to Emi-Fanart over on Tumblr for the use of her amazing, beautiful, stunning artwork for the thumbnail. So all her information is down below. Make sure you go and send her some love. Send me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you think of it. And make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out. This is actually a two-parter. So yeah, you don't want to miss out on the second part. And I hope you enjoy. Everyday Heroes, Part 1, his Everyday Ladybug, Adrien's POV. It had been the craziest 2 weeks of Adrien Agreste's life. He had been pretty down for the last month or so after that day Andre had reacclimatized over the whole couple of the year thing, and Ladybug had thrown Cat Noir into a trash can in a fit of rage. He'd been so heartbroken that day that it was only after spending the afternoon with Marinette that he felt slightly better. Adrien had been grateful for her friendship that day, but had been afraid to lean on her once again the depression returned. Cat had to be strong as one of the heroes of Paris, and Adrien couldn't be seen as less than perfect, or else he would embarrass his father and thus his brand. Somehow Marinette didn't seem to mind him being less than perfect in either his personas. She probably had the biggest heart of anyone ever, but his father had told him that to talk about your problems to others made you look weak at best and broken at worst. Adrien couldn't stand the thought of Marinette thinking he was either, on either side of the mask. So he had trudged through his days in a dull grey world, brightened only by seeing his friends at school. Nino was doing everything he could to cheer up his best bro, but nothing seemed to help for very long. Marinette was there too, but she seemed more distracted than usual, like she was withdrawn into her own little world. Having known her for as long as he had, he thought it was safe to say that she wasn't happy either. Had she confessed her buttercup? Had he turned her down? Who but a heartless villain could turn down Marinette? He thought back to the day when she had confessed to Cat that she was in love with him. The way that she had hugged him made him feel like he could take on the world, and it nearly broke his heart when he had to break hers. Adrien was so thankful that she wanted to stay friends after that whole mess, which was probably why she thought she could safely practice her confession for her new crush with Cat. But that day had broken his own heart, and after she threw away the dramatic confession she had clearly slavered over, just spoke from the heart. Oh, for a moment he had wished so desperately that the words she had spoken were really for him. So when the last class of that particular day was cancelled, and Alya interrupted his game with Nino to let Marinette lean on him so she could use the restroom, he was eager to help. "Sure, Alya," he murmured as he came over. "I haven't been sleeping well either, so I understand." "Thanks, sunshine," she said with a wink, holding the sleeping Marinette up so Adrien could slip into place. "Just a heads up, she sometimes likes to cuddle when she sleeps." "I don't mind." He smiled sweetly at his sleeping friend as he eased her head down against his shoulder with a soft sigh. "You go ahead, I've got her." Alya and Nino walked back inside, and he watched in fascination as the weak winter sunlight highlighted blue tints in Marinette's black streaks. It reminded him of the prisms that dangled off the shade of an antique lamp his mother used to have in her reading room. He used to sit on her lap for hours and watch the rainbows dance around the room. It was a good memory, one of very few. Maybe the memory of his mother left him empty, and Marinette always seemed so full of energy and life. Maybe it was because the chill breeze picked up and she was so warm and smelled like lavender shampoo. Maybe he was just craving a gentle touch after feeling lost for so long. Whatever the reason, he somehow found himself curling around Marinette's waist with his head in her lap. Kitty, she murmured in her sleep, and he couldn't help but smile. Maybe she was dreaming about him. He hoped it was a nice one. Wrapped in her warmth and sweet scent, he drifted off to sleep, only to wake up the next morning in his own bed with no idea how he got there and the vague but wonderful memory of holding Marinette. And that's when things started slowly going crazy, at least as far as Adrien was concerned. Nino and Alya suggested they check out the local arcade, and they seemed to get annoyed that he and Marinette got into a grudge match in Ultimate Mega Strike 4. The silly trash talk getting so loud, the owner had to shout at them to ask them to leave. Though it was totally worth it to see Marinette's face when she realized she had just called me a no game pants jockey. He thought, grinning madly at how Marinette's jaw kept falling open in horror, but no sound came out as her face cycled between red beets and ash pale. He had never laughed like that before in his entire life. He had laughed so hard that his knees gave way, and when Nino tried to help him up, he started giggling too. They both ended up on the floor of the arcade, howling like a couple of hyenas, Alya had remarked, tears streaming down their faces and rolling in the fossilized remains of popcorn and spilled soda. Marinette, flushing as red as a sunset, awkwardly explained that she had meant that he was played by the seats of his pants instead of studying the game, or at least he thought that was what she said. Whatever she had meant, the thought of sweet Marinette trash-talking him in the middle of the video game and then backpedaling so fast that she nearly crashed into 2 university students carrying trays loaded with nachos was enough to make him smile so wide his cheeks hurt. If the visit to the arcade wasn't weird enough, somehow he had torn a hole in the shoulder seam of his overshirt on Monday, and Alya practically threw Marinette, into the breach. Sure enough, aspiring fashion designer that she was, Marinette carried a sewing kit in her backpack and spent the whole of her lunchtime fixing the seam. She sat so close that sometimes her breath would brush against his cheek, or her pigtail would tickle his neck. He struggled with the urge to turn his head and smell her hair again, like he had the other day. When she suddenly leaned forward over his shoulder, he took his opportunity, hoping no one would notice. He breathed in the scent of lavender, only to find himself nose to nose with Marinette as she had bitten the end of the thread from the repaired seam. She blushed prettily, and he was sure his cheeks and ears were just as red. She was so close, and her sky-blue eyes stared into his with such strong emotions brewing in the depths that his breath caught in his chest. The rest of the world faded into white noise, and he felt lightheaded. All he had to do was lean in and... The bell rang out for the end of lunch period. It broke the trance they both seemed to have fallen into. Marinette leapt to her feet, somehow knocking the tray with her uneaten lunch all over herself. You're supposed to eat your lunch, not wear it, Dupang Chang. Or is that what you think passes for fashion these days? Chloe called out gleefully from a nearby table. Sabrina and Lila both chuckled nastily. Marinette left hastily with a forced expression of calm. Adrien could hear Alya gritting her teeth as Nino held her arm to keep her from throwing herself at the 3 girls. That wasn't nice, Chloe, he said darkly, frowning at his former friend. She just waved a hand dismissively at him. His eyes trailed to the exit, wondering if Marinette was okay and when his heart rate would slow down once more. Things just kept getting stranger. Alya and Nino were insistent the next day that he would take Marinette out for hot chocolate after school to cheer her up from the whole mess with Chloe yesterday, which Adrien was happy to do. He wanted to spend more time with her, wanted to see if what he was feeling was real and possible mutual, or if his recent heartache was playing tricks on him. After all, Marinette deserved so much more than to merely be his rebound from Ladybug. Unfortunately, Chloe and Sabrina were also in the cafe and made a point of jostling Marinette's arm on the way by, bumping scalding hot chocolate all down her shirt. Adrien was surprised and worried to see the look of exhaustion resonated on Marinette's face. Tears sparkled in the corner of her eyes, but never fell as the two bullies laughed at her on the way out. "Adrien, thanks for inviting me, but I think I'll have to pass today after all," she murmured sadly. She didn't even have the energy to stutter. Her voice was soft and distant, as if she was drifting away into a storm where he wouldn't be able to reach her. She threw on her pink fleece coat and crimson scarf and headed towards the door. "Marinette, wait!" he said, grabbing her wrist. "I'm sorry about Chloe. That was cruel of her and inexcusable." She seemed unhappy for a while, and it had lifted occasionally the last few days, but the way she was looking at him now, he was worried that this might be the last thing she could deal with before falling apart. He would do anything to keep her from being akumatized. Not his everyday ladybug. "It's okay," she said with a sad smile. "It's not worth the butterflies." "Is everything okay, Marinette?" he asked softly. "You haven't seemed yourself lately. You know you can talk to me if there's something troubling you, right? You've always been there for me, and I..." The words dried up in his throat as her eyes darkened in what looked like pain. She gently tugged her arm, a mute plea for him to let her go. He released her wrist and she cradled it to her chest. "You're very sweet, Adrien, but I wouldn't want to bother you with my problems. You have enough going on." "You're never a bother, Marinette," he murmured. "Please, talk to me." Her lips trembled and her eyes were full of conflicting emotions. What was it she was afraid to tell him? Then, as if a steel door slammed shut behind her eyes, she stiffened and put on a wistful smile. "If I needed to, Adrien, I would. Thanks." He watched her sadly as she left the cafe, not knowing what else he could do. That closed look in her eyes felt wrong. Marinette was such a pillar of strength. Seeing her look so lost, lonely even, it made his chest contract in sympathy. What could he do to help her? And why did her last words feel so familiar? It became obvious over the next few days that Alya and Nino were trying to cheer up their sweet friend. That would explain the arcade and the hot chocolate date at the cafe and the bowling incident, as Nino referred to it. Marinette seemed well enough, but she still lacked that sparkle, that energy that made her so wonderful to be with. So when Nino texted the next evening asking if he could duck out for a few hours so the four of them could go to the movies, Adrien quickly agreed. It seemed to be working as Marinette cheered up next to him during the first 20 minutes of the movie. Then, of course, the accumulator went off around the theatre and Alya made a mad dash to record the fight for the lady blog. "Dude, can you take care of Marinette? Gotta make sure my girl doesn't get squished or whatever," Nino asked frantically, jumping over the seats in front of them and dashing after his girlfriend. Don't worry about me," she stammered with a weary smile. "I'm just going to bath in the hide in the bathroom. Yeah, see you later." And off she ran, weaving her way through the crowd with surprising ease for someone who tripped so much. By the time the fight was over and he had made his way back to the theatre, it was late. There was no way they were catching the rest of the movie. Alya texted saying that she and Nino were heading home from the Kuma location and could he make sure Marinette got back all right. He was tired, but happy to spend extra time with Marinette. Maybe he could still cheer her up on the way back to the bakery. They chatted comfortably back and forth about Nino's new mixes, Alya's tendency to dash headlong into danger to get pictures of Ladybug and Cat Noir in action, and who was their favourite superhero. Marinette was a staunch supporter of Cat Noir, while Adrien advocated for Ladybug. But you have to admit that Cat Noir couldn't purify the Kumas or fix all the damage caused, Adrien argued. I mean, Cat Noir is amazing and all, he can't do what Ladybug can. They're a team, Marinette replied, hands out as if she was presenting the perfect evidence. They each complement each other, can't you see? Red and black, good luck and bad, making and breaking. They just work so well together. I'm not saying they don't. It's just that Ladybug could do her job without Cat Noir, and has sometimes. Cat Noir couldn't get the job done without Ladybug. Marinette stopped suddenly in the middle of the sidewalk, her eyes burning like blue fire. She stepped up to him, leaning into his space, and poked her finger into his chest hard. Do you know how many times he has died so Ladybug could do her job without Cat Noir? She seethed. Because I do. Over 100. Sacrificing himself for her time and again so we can be safe? Yes, she is the one with the harder job, but she wouldn't have gotten this far without him. He couldn't help the soft smile that spread across his face as she drew a deep breath to continue her defense of her hero, of him. And personally, Cat Noir has saved my life several times. He is always thoughtful, kind, and encouraging. He is just as much as a hero as Ladybug, and he is my friend. No one treats my friends as if they are second-rate, not even... Her words cut out abruptly, and those ocean eyes widened as she realized exactly what she had been saying and to whom. Adrien blushed hotly as he found them so close once again. His heart was beating hard, and every word she had spoken felt like it was tearing away a wall he had built around his heart. Her adamant defense of Cat Noir thrilled him, sending tingles all the way to his fingertips. Oh, he just wanted to pull her into a kiss right there. She couldn't know, but those were exactly the words he'd been needing, dying to hear from someone, anyone, but to hear them from Marinette. Oh, they made him feel like he could take on the world, if only for her. They filled him up inside like hot chocolate on a cold winter night. I'm sorry, Adrien, she squeaked, her voice barely audible over the sound of late evening traffic. I don't know what came over me. I didn't, it was... At which point, she slammed her face into her palms. Everything still exposed was red with embarrassment. He put his hand on her shoulder. It's okay, Marinette, he said gently. I know how protective you feel about your friends. Cat Noir is lucky to have you. She peeked up at him through her fingers, her dazzling eyes as wide as saucers. He leaned in, squeezing her shoulder in reassurance. And so am I. The short distance back to the bakery was covered in friendly chat about school, friends, and his up-and-coming photo shoot. He walked her to the side door to the stairs. I had fun tonight. Sorry we didn't get to finish the movie. He couldn't help rubbing the back of his neck out of nerves. If this was a proper date, he would kiss her. But he hadn't asked her out, and it had been a group thing. Would a kiss be inappropriate? He didn't want to push too hard or too fast with her. Marinette could be skittish and... No. She was in love with her buttercup, whoever he was, because with Plague snickering at him from inside his pocket, there was no way he was lucky enough for it to be him. Yeah, she replied. Maybe someday we make it through a whole movie. What do you think? He chuckled. Well, we're 2 for 2 for Akuma attacks. Do you think a third time's the charm? She blushed. Reaching into her small purse, she pulled out the lucky charm he had made for her birthday. I would have thought that having 2 lucky charms would have been enough. He pulled out his own. Well, I'm not an expert at making things like you are. Maybe I did something wrong. No! Her small hand reached out and rested lightly on his. You're perfect, just the way you are, and so is my Adrien lucky charm. I wouldn't have you any other way. She was looking at him with a strange mixture of sadness and determination in her eyes. I mean, I've always liked you best when we were all just hanging out, you know? When you are just you. She gave a cute one-sided shrug and a crooked smile. He blushed and rubbed the back of his neck. Thanks, Marinette. I think so too. About you, I mean. Her eyes fell and he felt the door closing on him once more. Thanks, Adrien, but I'm not sure I even know who I am anymore. Thanks for walking me home. Good night. The next day, he had an afternoon photo shoot at the Trocadero and was surprised to see Marinette and Alya on the outskirts of the crowd of spectators. The two girls seemed to be arguing about something, Alya standing with her hands on her hips and Marinette clutching her sketch pad to her chest and wearing a stubborn expression. He kept an eye out for them and went looking for them when the photographer called for a break. Hey, Alya, he called, waving. I thought I saw you and Marinette over here earlier. Where is she? Oh, she just stepped away for a few minutes. She waved off towards the stairs. She'll be back. To tell you the truth, she has been having a rough time lately. I have been trying to encourage her to work on her designs, but she says she's blocked. She loves watching you work and your dad is her favorite designer. Could you maybe sneak her past the velvet ropes to see some of the clothes up close? Adrien snorted. It's less velvet rope and more caution tape, I'm afraid. It can get pretty chaotic during a shoot, but sure, I can ask. Thanks, sunshine, Alya replied with a bright smile. What's going on with Marinette? She still isn't upset about Chloe the other day, is she? Honestly, Adrien, I wish I could tell you. It would probably make more sense if you knew, but she has her reasons for staying quiet. You know how Marinette can be, always taking care of everyone but herself? Marinette's not taking care of herself, he asked, shocked. I mean, how? I know she looked sad for a few weeks and has been pretty quiet, but she's not. No, nothing like that. She's just working too hard and not taking the time she needs to let loose and feel free. You know how it is, I'm sure. She shot him a wink and a nudge in the ribs. Adrien turned to look off in the direction Alya had indicated. Yeah, I do. He felt a strong desire to go and find Marinette, wrap her in a hug and never let her go, to tell her how much she meant to him and bring the smile back to her face. The words she had said at the cafe and the night before when he walked her home echoed forlornly in his heart. If I need to, Adrien, I would. Thanks, Adrien, but I'm not sure even I know who I am anymore. Marinette was lonely and hurting. He knew because he had said those same words to his father before destroying the billboard with him and Ladybug, before he went to Marinette. She was always a puzzle to him. Adrien had always thought of her as pretty and sweet, a ray of sunshine in his life rivaled only by Ladybug. But now, knowing and seeing that she was in pain, he realized he had been taking her for granted. Him and probably everyone else she knew. Marinette was a giver, an encourager, someone who wasn't afraid to get her clothes dirty if it meant boosting someone else to where they belonged. She had been his comfort in dark times, and when he had thought she was strong, it was more that she made him feel strong, just by being herself. Like last night, when she defended Cat Noir, when she told him that she liked him just the way he was. And now, his everyday Ladybug was going through a similar battle that he himself fought every day, but with no everyday Cat Noir to protect her. Alya, I know you and Nino have been trying to cheer her up lately, he said, still staring off into the crowd, scanning any sign of Marinette. But is there anything I can do to help? Do you think she would let me? He felt a warm hand on his shoulder through his sweater. Adrien, just let her know you see her, okay? Be there for her. He turned to look at her and saw a soft, satisfied look on her face. But I tried that already. I tried at the cafe and last night. I could tell something wasn't right, but she just told me she didn't want to be a bother. Alya rolled her eyes. That's just Marinette. She tries to carry the whole world on her shoulders, and she does, at least with her friends and anyone else she can help. But she is afraid to ask for help when she needs it. I know the feeling. Mr. Egress, we start back up in 5 minutes, an assistant called from nearby. Thank you, he called back. Look, Alya, I've got to go. I'll see about getting you both access and see what I can come up with to cheer her up. But let me know if you need me for anything, okay? Sure thing, sunshine. She looked like a fox in a henhouse, and he had the feeling he'd just agreed to play a chicken. He did manage to get permission for them to stand on the sidelines, and even saw Marinette waving at him before the shoot began again. At least until a sudden storm swept in and drenched the entire area in a chilly rain. Adrien couldn't be positive, but he thought he could hear Alya growling from all the way across the plaza. It could have just been thunder, of course, but his money was on Alya. The next morning, he got a text way too early in the morning. Alya. Morning, sunshine. Still want to help Marinette? Adrien. You know I do, but... He checked the clock on his phone. Adrien. It's 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Knowing Marinette, she probably won't be awake until noon. Alya. Nice catch, Captain Obvious. Plag snorted as he leaned bleary-eyed against his ear. She's got you pegged, kid. Shut up, Plag. Alya. I'm texting this early because I want to run something by you. Adrien. Yeah? Alya. I've been trying to find excuses to get my girl out of her room more. Adrien. Like the arcade, movies and photo shoot. Alya. Yeah. So since your phone is newer than hers and has a better camera, I was wondering if you could swing spending the afternoon with her taking pictures for the lady blog. What on earth was this girl up to now? Adrien. I have the makeup shoot starting in 3 hours to finish what got rained out yesterday. Should be done by early afternoon if all goes smoothly. Alya. Yeah, I guessed that, but a little bird told me you didn't have anything else on your schedule for the day. Adrien. Not unless it's added after dinner last night. What kind of pictures? Alya. Locations of Akuma attacks. Max is helping me put together an interactive map on attacks and battle locations. It will probably just be a gimmick for the hardcore fans, but who knows? Maybe it will help us track down Shadowmoth. He thought about it for a long moment before replying. Adrien. What is our excuse about including Marinette? She doesn't help with the lady blog that much, does she? Alya. Nah, but this girl is a walking encyclopedia for Akuma. Seriously, the stuff she knows about who appears where and why is uncanny. You would be shocked to know all the strange facts she has in her head. Adrien couldn't help but chuckle. For that matter, he could probably claim the same amount of knowledge of Akuma fights, if not more given that he was in most of them, but that Marinette would be interested in such things surprised him. Or maybe it's her way of keeping tabs on her friend, Cat Noir, Plag said slyly from his pillow. Adrien hushed his Kwame by pushing him off the pillow, but he couldn't help but blush at the thought of Marinette tracking his battles, looking for anything that would help keep him safe. She is my everyday ladybug, he thought and smiled. She was awfully defensive about your myself the other night, Plag said in a sing-song voice as he pounced on the wrinkles in his blanket. Alya. Yo, sunshine! You fall back to sleep on me or what? Adrien. No, just thinking. I should be able to swing it, assuming nothing goes wrong at the photo shoot. Alya. Great! I owe you one big time. Adrien. No, you don't. It's for Marinette. Alya. Right. So text me when you get through and I will let her know when you are coming. Can't give her an excuse to bail if she doesn't know now until the last minute. Adrien, I can't make any promises though, Alya. Like I said yesterday, shoots can get pretty chaotic at times. Alya, just smile and look pretty. You'll be out there in no time. He couldn't help rolling his eyes. Adrien, that's what they pay me for. He put the phone down and stretched lazily, a happy grin on his face. One of the reasons he liked Alya, aside from her being the class resident mama bear, was that she wasn't impressed with his money, his name, or his job. She just liked him as him. Just like Marinette does, he thought warmly. Just as he was about to doze off for a few more minutes, his phone buzzed again. Alya, who knows? Maybe my girl will give you a bonus. She knows you love passion fruit macaroons. And Marinette did bring him a box of cookies and macaroons, though none of them were passion fruit. Oh, since Alya didn't warn me about all this until 15 minutes ago, I didn't have time to make your favorite. Oh, she said between yawns as she climbed into the back of the car with him. That's okay. I like anything you make, Marinette. She blushed and nervously tucked a strand of hair behind one ear. Alya said you're her resident expert on all things Akuma, he quipped, hoping to make her smile. Yeah, you could say that. Any particular reason? He asked as he picked out a hazelnut macaroon. Well, she paused as if uncertain what to tell him. What did Alya tell you? Only that you're a walking storehouse of Akuma facts, and that I would be surprised at everything you knew. He leaned over and spoke quieter so the gorilla wouldn't hear him, even though he had rolled up the privacy screen for them. She also said that you had figured out my love of passion fruit macaroons. She giggled. So, Master Marinette, where to first? They decided on the Trocadero, the Eiffel Tower, and then the Louvre. I'm often out and about, looking for inspiration, you know? So it helps me prepared if I'm going to any place where Akuma shows up frequently. And boy, did she know her stuff. She gave him an accurate rundown of every Akuma fight that had happened in the Trocadero and which of them ended up at the Eiffel Tower. She paused briefly at the base of the stairs, lost in thought. He came up behind her, his phone recording as he panned the surroundings. So, what's so special about this location? He asked, sifting through the memories of over 100 different Akumas and unable to come up with one that would cause that sad expression. Timebreaker, she murmured softly. This one was my fault. What? Oh, you mean when Alex got akumatized after her watch got broken? As he recalled, a bunch of people were passing the watch from person to person, only to have it shoved into Marinette's hand when she was busy holding a banner. She got jerked around and dropped it, but he had caught it for her. Then Chloe took it from him and it was broken. That wasn't your fault, Marinette. She wiped away a tear. But it is, don't you see? If I had just put that watch in my purse, then it wouldn't have ended up broken. Alex would never have become Timebreaker and Cat. She stopped, her face screwed up in grief. He shut off the phone and put a hand on her shoulder. What happened? He knew, of course, but why did it strike her so hard? Cat was erased from time, she whispered, her voice thick like she was forcing it past a lump in her throat. Right where I'm standing. The first time when he died, and it was my fault. Oh, how he wanted to hug her, to let her know everything was okay, that none of this was her fault, that he never wanted her to cry for him again. Is this how Ladybug feels when I sacrifice myself like that to keep her safe? He wondered. If this was Ladybug standing next to him, he would pull her into a big hug right there and then. But this was Marinette. They were friends, good friends, but the thought of the mysterious buttercup lingered in the back of his mind, and he couldn't cross that line, as much as he wanted to. I know Cat Noir can seem a little reckless from time to time, he said softly, giving her all the comfort a firm squeeze to the shoulder could provide. But he does know what he's doing. It's his job to keep Ladybug safe, and she always brings him back. She shivered slightly. Hey, let's get over to the Louvre and take care of those locations before it gets too late, huh? She hurriedly wiped her eyes. Sounds good. He tucked his phone into his pocket and they walked back to the car. And if he put his arm around her on the way, well, she had been shivering. But not as much as she was on the way back to the bakery. An Akuma alert had sounded when they were at the Louvre, and while he and Ladybug had managed to defeat it quickly, the aftermath was a bit messier. He and Marinette had agreed to meet at one of the fountains in the plaza, and she had been running to catch up when she slipped on a wet patch. He stepped in to catch her, but she caught him off balance and he ended up in the fountain. I got off easy, he thought, casting a glance at Marinette's ankle that was already starting to swell. I'm so sorry, she lamented for probably the 15th time. I didn't mean it, Adrien, honest. He chuckled. Really, it's okay, Marinette. It wasn't too bad and I'm already warming up. Unless my lips are blue and I can't tell. He tucked his lips out into a pucker so she could check, but he knew it would make her blush. She did, her cheeks and ears turning pink as her eyes flickered to his lips. Okay, not my brightest ideas, Adrien thought, his heart racing suddenly. He found himself blushing and rubbing the back of his neck at the thought of Marinette thinking about his lips. No, she's in love with Buttercup, whoever he is, and Adrien isn't even supposed to know about it. He found himself growing hot under his blue scarf, and not for the first time in this last week, wondering who her mysterious boy was. Was he tall? Good looking? She had told Cat he was sweet, sincere, and generous. Was it possible she was talking about Luca? No, Nino said they broke up a while ago. Does she want to get back together with him? Why did they even break up anyway? But the thought of Marinette getting back with Luca made his stomach squirm for some reason. Not that Luca wasn't a great guy, he was, but seeing Marinette with him had never settled well with him. Of course, he had been distracted with Kagami at the time, but it had always felt strange to see them together. Plag had teased him about being jealous and he had brushed him off, but now he wasn't so sure. Adrien, is everything okay? Huh? Oh yeah, just lost in thought, I guess. Marinette sighed. I know the feeling. She looked sad again. I'm still here if you need someone to talk to, Marinette, he said. Well, someone other than Alya? I'm guessing she can get kind of intense? Marinette giggled. She can be, yeah, but most of it, it's complicated. Feelings always are for me. He put his hand on hers, resting on the seat between them. I know, and with Shadow Moth out there taking advantage of any negative emotions, well, feelings can be scary right now. She looked from his hand on hers to his face, her eyes wide and dark with emotions. Do you think it's wrong to hide what you feel? I mean, feelings are so dangerous right now. Wouldn't telling someone how you feel be... Her voice lowered to a whisper and she turned her head away. Putting them at risk? Adrien gave her hand a squeeze. I think it depends on the feelings and the people involved. If it's being angry at someone, then it's probably best to keep quiet for a while until you can calm down, unless it's hurting you to keep it in. I know I have a trouble at doing that. But if they are good feelings like concern, friendship, or love, then I think they should be talked about. He let go of her hand and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Especially if they come from someone as amazing as you are, Marinette. She looked at him, her eyes showing that her heart was full and pained, but still she did not speak. Finally, she whispered, I'm not sure I can do that. Don't put yourself at risk either, he said urgently. We need our everyday ladybug. Her sad smile twitched at the corners. Well, the real ladybug always has Cat Noir to back her up. I'm not that lucky. Except she hasn't needed me much these days, he thought sadly. Then it was as if the lights came on in a dark place. But Marinette does. Marinette, would you consider... At that point, the car pulled up in front of the bakery. Oh, we're here already, she said, surprised at their arrival. The moment lost, along with his opportunity. Adrien opened the car door and helped her out. Here, let's get you upstairs and off that foot as quickly as we can. The words he was so desperately wanted to say were hidden for another day. Thank you for listening to part 1 of Everyday Heroes. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that like button if you did. Make sure you go and send Jheqia some love for writing it. Make sure you send me some love by commenting down below what you think of it. And there is a part 2 to this, so that will be coming out very soon, so make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on the next part and other treats and other one-shots and series all coming your way very soon. And I hope you are good, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.